In the Hall of Fame of legendary Chevrolet V8 engines, there are names that immediately spark recognition among car enthusiasts. The small block 283, the iconic 327, the mighty 427, and the modern LS series. But sandwiched between these legends lies an engine that has faded from collective memory, despite its crucial role in Chevrolet's performance history. Today, we're diving deep into the story of the Chevrolet 348 cubic inch V8, the W engine. This engine paved the way for Chevy's dominance in the muscle car era, yet somehow got lost in the shadows of its more famous descendants. This is the tale of an innovative power plant that arrived at a pivotal moment in American automotive history, made its mark, and then vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. If you're ready for a journey through automotive history that combines engineering innovation, racing heritage, and the evolution of American performance, stick around. I'm about to take you inside the story of an engine that deserves way more recognition than it receives. The Chevy 348 V8, the engine that time erased. To understand the 348's story, we need to set the stage of late 1950s America. The post-war economic boom was in full swing. The interstate highway system had begun construction in 1956, transforming how Americans traveled. Suburbs were expanding rapidly, and with them came an increasing demand for larger, more powerful passenger cars and reliable work trucks. In 1955, Chevrolet had already revolutionized the automotive landscape with its small block V8, an engine that would eventually become the most produced engine in automotive history. The 265 cubic inch version and its successor, the 283, had given Chevrolet a strong foothold in the passenger car market. But there was a problem. The small block, while perfect for passenger cars, simply couldn't deliver the torque needed for Chevy's larger vehicles. The trucks, particularly the medium-duty line, needed something with more grunt. At the same time, the horsepower wars were heating up across the industry, and Chevrolet needed a larger displacement option for its premium cars to remain competitive against Chrysler's Hemis and Ford's big blocks. So, in the mid-1950s, Chevrolet engineers were tasked with developing a completely new engine architecture, one that could handle heavier loads and bigger displacements than the small block could accommodate. What they created would become known as the W engine family, and its first production variant was the 348 cubic inch V8. The 348 V8 was unlike anything Chevrolet had built before. While the small block had conventional flat valve covers and cylinder heads, the new engine featured distinctively shaped valve covers that resembled the letter W when viewed from the front, hence the nickname W engine. But the unique appearance wasn't just for show. The W engine featured unusual combustion chambers created by canted valves and uniquely shaped cylinder heads. Unlike the wedge-shaped combustion chambers of the small block, the W engine had a combustion chamber partially formed by a depression in the piston top. This peculiar piston had a trapezoidal shape that resembled an upside-down bathtub, leading hot rodders to dub these bathtub pistons. The block itself was a massive departure from the small block design. Cast in heavy-duty iron, it featured deck heights and bore spacing specifically engineered to handle the stresses of truck use while allowing for future displacement increases. The crankshaft was forged steel, supported by 5 main bearings, a robust setup for the era and intended applications. Cut to engineer interview or vintage Chevrolet promotional material. When Chevrolet introduced the 348 for the 1958 model year, it wasn't just a new engine. It represented a technological leap forward and a strategic expansion of Chevrolet's powertrain portfolio. With the small block handling the passenger cars and light trucks, and this new W engine taking care of the heavier loads and high-performance applications, Chevrolet was positioning itself for dominance across the full spectrum of the market. The development of the 348W engine wasn't just a technological achievement, it was a triumph of human ingenuity and determination. The engineering team tasked with creating this revolutionary power plant faced immense pressure. GM executives demanded an engine that could serve multiple purposes while outperforming the competition. Leading the development was Ed Cole, Chevrolet's chief engineer who had already cemented his legacy with the small block V8. Cole understood that Chevrolet needed something completely different, not just a larger version of the existing small block. Working under Cole was a team of talented engineers including Harry Barr and Zora Arkus Duntov, names that would later become legendary in Chevrolet's performance history. The development process began in 1955, giving the team less than 3 years to design, test, and prepare for production an entirely new engine architecture. This compressed timeline required innovative thinking and occasional rule-breaking. According to retired Chevrolet engineer Tom Langdon, who worked on the W engine program as a young man, "We were essentially building the airplane while flying it." The testing regimen was brutal. Prototype engines were run at full throttle until failure, then disassembled and analyzed. This iterative process led to numerous revisions of critical components like the oiling system and head gaskets. One particular challenge was managing the heat generated by the unique combustion chamber design. The early prototypes looked quite different from what eventually reached production, notes automotive historian Robert Mitchell. The valve covers were originally much taller, and the intake manifold went through at least 6 major revisions before they found a design that provided the right balance of low-end torque and high RPM breathing. When the 348 finally entered production in late 1957, it represented not just a new engine, but a new manufacturing challenge. The unique cylinder head design required specialized machining processes that had never been implemented at Chevrolet's Tonawanda engine plant. New fixtures, tooling, and quality control procedures had to be developed specifically for the W engine. Workers had to be trained on the assembly peculiarities of the new engine. The bathtub pistons could only be installed in one orientation, and the unique head gaskets required precise torquing procedures to prevent leaks. These manufacturing challenges added cost, but Chevrolet considered it a necessary investment to secure their position in the growing heavy-duty and performance markets. Equipped with the 348, often found themselves owning the fastest car in their neighborhood. The distinctive rumble of the W engine became a status symbol in suburban driveways across America. Mechanics quickly learned the quirks of servicing the new engine. The unique head design meant that valve adjustments were slightly more complicated than on the small block, but the robust bottom end typically required less frequent attention. Period service manuals devoted extra pages to the W engine's unique maintenance requirements. One drawback frequently mentioned in period reviews was fuel consumption. The 348 was notoriously thirsty, especially in multiple carburetor configurations. A 1959 Motor Trend test of a tri-power 348 Impala recorded an average of just 11.2 miles per gallon. However, with gasoline prices hovering around 30 cents per gallon throughout the late 1950s, fuel economy was rarely a deciding factor for buyers. "I bought my '59 Impala with the 348 tri-power new, and I still have it," says Richard Thornton, an 84-year-old retired mechanic from Ohio. Back then, we didn't care about gas mileage. We cared about how quickly you could get from the stoplight to 60, and that 348 would flat out move. The sound alone was worth the price of admission. Contemporary magazine reviews praised the 348's smooth power delivery and impressive torque. A 1958 review in Hot Rod magazine described the engine as a torque monster that transforms the Impala from a stylish cruiser to a legitimate performance machine. By 1960, with the high-output 350 horsepower version available, the magazines were running out of superlatives. For long-distance travel on the new interstate system, the 348 provided effortless cruising ability. While the small block might be working hard to maintain 70 miles per hour, the 348 was just loafing along at the same speed, contributing to its reputation for reliability on extended journeys. This made 348 equipped cars popular choices for salesmen and others who spent long hours on the road. Let's look at what made the 348 special from a technical perspective. The engine featured a 4.125-inch bore and a 3.25-inch stroke, dimensions that favored torque production while still allowing decent high RPM performance. With a displacement of 348 cubic inches, 5.7 liters, it was significantly larger than the 283 small block, but wasn't yet in the territory of what would later be called big blocks. The cylinder head design was particularly innovative. The canted valves and unique combustion chamber shape created excellent breathing characteristics for the era. The valve train used stamped steel rocker arms mounted on individual rocker studs rather than a shaft system, offering a good balance between performance and manufacturing cost. In its initial offering, the 348 came in multiple states of tune. The base single-barrel carburetor version produced a modest 250 horsepower, while the 4-barrel variant bumped that to 280 horsepower. But Chevrolet wasn't done there. They also offered a triple 2-barrel carburetor setup, the famous Tri-Power, which boosted output to 315 horsepower. By 1960, higher compression ratios and further refinements pushed the most powerful version to 350 horsepower. Serious muscle for the era, and enough to make Chevrolet's full-size models genuine performance machines. Remember, this was still before the official dawn of the muscle car era, making these power figures even more impressive. Another noteworthy feature was the cooling system. The W engine employed an improved water pump and carefully designed water jackets to ensure adequate cooling even under heavy loads. Critical for an engine that would see duty in everything from family sedans to work trucks pulling heavy trailers. The lubrication system featured a high-volume oil pump and carefully designed oil passages to ensure adequate lubrication under all operating conditions. This was particularly important for the truck applications, where sustained high loads could potentially starve an inadequate oiling system. In trucks, the 348 offered something the small block simply couldn't: torque, and lots of it. The base version produced 355 pound-feet of torque, while the highest output variant delivered a stump-pulling 400 pound-feet. This made the 348th ideal for Chevrolet's medium-duty truck line, where it quickly earned a reputation for reliability under heavy loads. The 348W engine made its debut in the 1958 model year, most famously in the all-new Chevrolet Impala. This was Chevrolet's new top-of-the-line model, and it needed a suitably impressive power plant. The 348th fit the bill perfectly, giving the Impala enough power to match its upscale image. But the 348 wasn't limited to the Impala. It also found its way into other full-size Chevrolet models, including the Bel Air and Biscayne. In these large, heavy cars, the 348's torque made for effortless cruising, especially when paired with the optional Turbo Glide or Power Glide automatic transmissions. Perhaps even more important than the passenger car applications were the trucks. The 348 became the standard offering in Chevrolet's medium-duty truck line, including the iconic Task Force series and later the C60 and C70 models. These workhorses relied on the 348's torque to haul everything from construction materials to agricultural products across America's expanding highway system. In 1959, the 348 also became available in the first-generation El Camino, Chevrolet's car-based pickup truck. This created what might be considered one of the first factory muscle trucks, offering surprising performance in a utilitarian package. The 348 also found favor with police departments and other fleet operators who needed the combination of durability and power that it offered. Police pursuit vehicles equipped with the high-output 348 were among the fastest law enforcement vehicles of their day. For recreational users, the 348's torque made it ideal for towing boats and travel trailers, activities that were becoming increasingly popular as America's middle class expanded and leisure time increased. While primarily designed as a truck and luxury car engine, the 348 quickly proved it had racing potential as well. In NASCAR, the 348-powered Chevrolets were competitive right out of the gate. At the 1958 Daytona Beach road course, Chevrolets powered by the new W engine made a strong showing against the Hemi-powered Chryslers and Y-block Fords. In drag racing, the 348 quickly became a favorite among racers looking for an alternative to the Ford and Chrysler offerings. Its good breathing characteristics made it responsive to traditional hot rodding modifications, and its robust bottom end could handle significant increases in power. Legendary drivers like Junior Johnson and Rex White drove 348-powered Chevrolets to victory in NASCAR events. In the hands of skilled tuners, the 348 demonstrated that it was far more than just a truck engine. It was a legitimate performance power plant that could hold its own on tracks across America. Perhaps most impressively, the 348 achieved these racing successes while still very new. Unlike engines that required years of development to become competitive, the W engine architecture proved inherently capable right from the start, a testament to the quality of Chevrolet's engineering. The racing success of the 348 also led Chevrolet to develop factory performance packages. While not yet called Super Sport, that would come a few years later, these high-output 348 packages with multiple carburetors and higher compression ratios foreshadowed the muscle car era that was just around the corner. Despite its success, the 348's time in the spotlight would be surprisingly brief. By 1961, just 3 years after its introduction, Chevrolet had already developed its successor, the legendary 409 cubic inch V8. The 409 was essentially an enlarged version of the 348, sharing the same basic W engine architecture but with an increased bore and stroke. The bore grew to 4.312 inches, and the stroke increased to 3.5 inches, bringing the total displacement to 409 cubic inches, 6.7 liters. With this increased displacement came significantly more power. The initial 409 produced 360 horsepower, already more than the most powerful 348. By 1962, high-compression versions with dual 4-barrel carburetors were producing 409 horsepower, achieving the magical 1 horsepower per cubic inch benchmark. That was the holy grail of engine development at the time. The 409 quickly captured the public imagination, even inspiring the Beach Boys' hit song 409, with its famous lyrics, "She's real fine, my 409." This pop culture immortalization helped cement the 409's place in automotive history, while simultaneously pushing the 348 further into obscurity. Chevrolet's marketing shifted quickly to promote the 409 as their premium performance offering, with special badging and promotion in their advertising. The message was clear: the 409 was the new king of Chevrolet performance. Interestingly, while the 409 took over the performance car applications, the 348 continued to be offered in trucks until 1964. This made sense from a product planning perspective. The 348 was more than adequate for truck applications, and maintaining separate engine lines for trucks and performance cars allowed for more specialized development. By 1965, the W engine family, including both the 348 and 409, had been replaced by the new Mark IV Big Block, which debuted as the 396 cubic inch engine and would later expand to the legendary 427. This newer design addressed some of the W engine's limitations while building on its strengths. The Mark IV maintained the basic concept of a larger, torquier alternative to the small block, but featured a different combustion chamber design and improved breathing. The conventional wedge chambers were easier to manufacture than the W engine's unique design, and the revised port layout offered better high RPM performance. In total, the 348 was in production for just 6 years, 1958 to 1964, and the 409 for only 5, 1961 to 1965. This relatively short production run, especially compared to the small block's 6-decade-plus lifespan, contributes to the W engine's relative obscurity today. Despite this, the 348 maintains a dedicated following among knowledgeable enthusiasts. Restored Impalas and other full-size Chevrolets equipped with the original 348 command premium prices at auctions, particularly the high-performance versions with multiple carburetors. There's also a small but dedicated aftermarket supporting the 348 and 409 engines, offering everything from basic rebuild parts to performance upgrades. While not as extensive as the small block or Mark IV aftermarket, these offerings allow enthusiasts to keep these historic engines running and even enhance their performance beyond what was possible in the 1950s and early 1960s. So why should we remember the 348 today? First, it represents a critical transitional period in Chevrolet's engineering history. It bridged the gap between the original small block and the later big blocks, incorporating lessons from the former while pioneering technologies that would influence the latter. Second, the 348 was a bold engineering experiment that paid off. Rather than simply enlarging the small block, which would have been the safer, more conservative approach, Chevrolet engineers created something entirely new, a risk that yielded significant rewards in terms of performance and capability. Third, the 348th played a crucial role in building Chevrolet's reputation for tough, dependable trucks. While its passenger car applications may have been overshadowed by later engines, its contribution to Chevrolet's truck heritage is undeniable. Fourth, the 348 helped establish Chevrolet as a force in stock car racing, setting the stage for the brand's later dominance in motorsports. Those early NASCAR victories with the 348 began a winning tradition that continues to this day. Finally, elements of the W engine design influenced not just Chevrolet's later engines, but competitors' designs as well. The lessons learned from the 348 and 409 reverberated throughout the industry, informing engine development well into the 1970s. The Chevrolet 348 V8 may be the engine that time erased from popular memory, but its impact on automotive history remains significant. For those who know where to look, its influence can be seen in everything from the muscle cars of the 1960s to the heavy-duty trucks that built modern America. In an era where engines are increasingly becoming homogenized and electrification threatens to make the distinctive character of different internal combustion designs a thing of the past, it's worth remembering engines like the 348, power plants with unique personalities, strengths, and yes, even quirks. The next time you see a late 1950s Impala or a vintage Chevrolet truck at a car show, take a moment to look under the hood. You might just find one of these forgotten warriors, a 348-watt engine that helped define an era of American performance and capability. I hope you've enjoyed this journey through a forgotten chapter of automotive history. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel for more deep dives into the cars and engines that shaped our automotive heritage. Until next time, this is your YouTube name, celebrating the machines that move us.